Joining us this morning with more on the war in Iran is U.S. Representative Adam Smith of Washington's 9th District. He's also the ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. Good morning to you, Congressman. As we just mentioned, yesterday the House narrowly rejected a resolution to curb President Donald Trump's powers in the Iran war. So what can Congress really do at this point if the divide is so narrow?
Well, Congress could do a great deal. We need to have the votes for it, and the Republicans in the House and the Senate have decided to back President Trump's war in Iran. So they're not going to do anything. But we need to keep pushing on this issue, and I think your report so illustrates the problem. President Trump didn't get elected. The people who voted for him didn't vote for him because they wanted to go to war with Iran. They wanted to deal with inflation, affordability, strengthen our economy, and we're going in the opposite direction on that. And this war is going to drive up the cost of oil and energy considerably, which is only going to make that worse. I mean, we lost jobs last month. We need to focus on our economy, not on another full-scale war in the Middle East.
The House also, though, approved a separate measure affirming Iran as the largest state sponsor of terrorism. 53 Democrats voted against that. You voted to approve the measure. So Iran is clearly a big concern here. What do you think would be a better way to approach the situation there in the Middle East?
Yeah, not going to war. And that's the thing that has really troubled me. And I've been in Congress a while, so I've seen this play out with Iraq, with Afghanistan, with Libya, other countries as well. Look, I fully acknowledge that Iran is a bad actor in the Middle East region and a problem for the U.S. But is our approach really, if you're a bad actor and a problem, well, let's just start dropping bombs and go to war? This is the lesson we should have learned from the last 25 years. Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, the Taliban, all terrible, awful, horrible governments. But we decided that the military was going to be an easy solution to that, and we learned that it's not. It's incredibly costly, and the results almost never turn out the way you envisioned them going in. So I understand the impulse. I do. The world would be a better place if Iran got rid of this government and had a government that actually focused on the Iranian people. That's absolutely true. But that doesn't mean that you go to war to try to bring that about, because we've learned that it's not as easy as it sounds or it looks, and the costs are considerable. So yes, they acknowledge certainly how bad Iran is, but the point of all this was that we should have learned that war is not the answer to all of these problems.
Well, during a congressional briefing, you questioned Pentagon officials about their goals in this war. What did you gather from that briefing? How long do you think at this point the war could last? And do you believe we're going to see boots on the ground here?
Well, there's a lot of questions in there. Thus far, I don't think the administration wants to put boots on the ground. I think they have been very unclear on what their goals are in this war. They've talked about Iran's ballistic missile program. They've talked about Iran's support for terrorism, Iran's working towards a nuclear weapon, and they've talked about regime change. And, sort of reading between the lines and trying to figure out exactly what the goal here is. The goal seems to be to weaken Iran as much as possible, with the hope that that leads to a change in its government. But there's no plan, no strategy for bringing about that change in government. It does not appear to be working. And how long will it last? I mean, weeks? I mean, they have not been specific about how much they want to weaken Iran's government. And the thing to remember is, after we've done this for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 2, 3, 4 months, if the Iranian regime is still firmly in place at an enormous cost, we have simply set them back a short period of time. So I don't think the administration has given us clear objectives, and they certainly haven't given us a clear idea of this is what we're trying to accomplish. When we've accomplished it, we're done. They don't know. For the moment, they're just trying to degrade Iran, and it seems like they're going to keep doing that for the foreseeable future.
CNN just apparently had a conversation with the president in the last few minutes. He said, without being asked, Cuba is also going to fall pretty soon. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a major, major problem. It goes back to a lot of things I've already said here. Look, when President Trump ran for president, he claimed to have learned all of those lessons that I just talked about. He talked about the wars that the U.S. stumbled into that wound up being vastly more costly and less productive than we thought. He claimed to understand that, to want to focus on domestic issues. He seems to have changed his mind now that he has the power of the presidency. And really, his foreign policy is to use the power of the U.S. government through blunt force to try to coerce as many countries as possible across the globe. And that is an incredibly costly enterprise. I mean, it's costly to do it in the first place. This war is estimated to cost somewhere between $1 billion and $2 billion a day. The costs of what we've done in Venezuela and down in Latin America are also high, and Cuba would be high as well. But even outside of the financial costs, and by the way, we have already lost 6 U.S. service members in this war, so the cost in lives is high as well. It introduces a huge amount of instability in the world, and we're seeing that in the Mideast war. 14 countries have been dragged into this conflict. The price of oil, the price of natural gas is spiking. It is having a major disruptive effect on shipping and disrupting the lives of tens of millions of people. So I hope President Trump goes back to being candidate Trump and remembers what he said about not relying on U.S. military force and dragging us into war after war after war, because that's not what he's doing as president. He's doing the opposite. He's using war as the easy button to solve every problem that he sees pop up. That's not what we should be doing.
All right, before you go, I do want to get your take about the president's decision to nominate Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin to replace Kristi Noem as DHS Secretary. What's your take on this?
Well, the main take is, regardless of who's there, the policies are the problem. Now, I think Kristi Noem was a uniquely unqualified and corrupt official, so she definitely needed to go. But the policies come from Trump, and the policies of violating the rights of Americans all across the country, hiring all these ICE and other federal agencies that amount to a paramilitary force for the president, that are going around community by community and terrorizing the people of America, violating their rights, doing searches without warrants, stopping people without probable cause, detaining people for weeks at a time without due process. All of these things violate the rights of our country. Those are being implemented at Trump's direction. So it's good that Noem is gone, but that doesn't change the policies. I served with Markwayne Mullin in the House. I know him reasonably well. We've worked together on a few issues. He seems like an okay person, but I just don't have a lot of confidence that he's going to change these horrible policies in terms of how Trump is using ICE to abuse the rights of Americans as he uses, that's the way he's doing immigration enforcement, which is not what should be happening. So the policies need to change, not just the faces.
We shall see. Thanks so much for joining us, Representative Adam Smith of Washington's 9th District, the ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And as we mentioned, President Trump has fired Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. She